Welcome to Road to the Great British Bake Off.
I got itty bitty cupcakes.
My name's Shelley. I'm a really amateur baker.
Probably not a successful bake.
And I'm spending 2021 working my way through Bake Off challenges. Every month, I'm tackling a theme, like Cake Week or Bread Week, using real tasks and technicals, and holding myself to the same time limits as past contestants. It's just like preseason training. So join me, and let's see what happens.
Welcome back to part 2 of Italian Week. So part 1 was the signature bake, where I made cannoli and had a pretty severe hiccup in the middle of the bake. Today is the technical bake, where I have to make the perfect Italian pizza in 1 hour and 30 minutes. But I've had a good rest since the last bake. And I'm feeling confident. So let's see if we can get this one done right and on time for the first time ever. Let's get started. So the ingredients for the dough are pretty simple, as you would expect. 00 flour, fine salt, which I keep in the cellar, fresh yeast. I couldn't find fresh yeast for this technical challenge, so I'm going to have to use the active dry yeast and adjust the amounts. Caster sugar, some lukewarm water, olive oil, and some semolina for dusting. And the first steps are to combine the dry ingredients and mix the yeast with the water. And that's all the instruction I get. Well, for the yeast part, the recipe calls for 115 ml of lukewarm water and 10 grams of fresh yeast. But as I said, I couldn't find fresh yeast. So for this technical, I did need to do a bit of a cheat to figure out how to convert fresh yeast into active dry yeast. So what I found online says that you multiply whatever the fresh yeast quantity is by 0.4, which takes me down to 4 grams into the tepid water. So what I tend to do is kind of boil my water and then let it cool down. And once I can put my finger in it and it's warm, but it doesn't, it's not uncomfortable, then I chuck it in. As you know, the problem with yeast is that if it's too hot, it'll kind of kill the active cultures. And if it's not warm enough, nothing will happen. So I also need to put in a pinch of sugar. And I'm going to put in half a teaspoon. Because I think that's what I remember from last time I made pizza dough. I think I put in a full teaspoon, and this is, I think, a half recipe. So that's going to go in there. And you don't have to do anything to your yeast in terms of shaking it or stirring it or anything. You can just let it settle. And you'll know that it's working if in the next 5 minutes it starts to foam and bubble. So let's see if that happens. While I wait for the active dry yeast to activate, over the next 5 minutes, I'm gonna start the sauce, the base sauce for the pizza. And for this part of the technical recipe, it's extremely vague. There are no measurements. So it just calls for plum tomatoes, which I bought in a tin, olive oil, garlic, lemon, salt, and sugar. Now, what I know, or what I believe to be true, is that typically pizza-based sauces traditionally are not heated. That's pasta sauce, not pizza sauce. So the recipe here just says make a tomato sauce. So with these ingredients on the sheet and believing that this shouldn't be cooked, what I'm gonna do is take some of the olive oil and some crushed garlic and basically heat that in a pan and create an infused garlic oil. Then I'm gonna whiz up half of this tin of tomato sauce, add the garlic oil to it along with the salt, the sugar, and I'm not really sure what this is about. I've never heard of lemon in pasta sauce, so tomatoes are already acidic, but I guess I'll just try putting a squeeze of this in and see if it heightens the tomato flavor at all. And that is going to be the sauce. There's going to be no reducing or cooking this down or thickening it up, because I don't think that's authentic. All right, so that's about 2 tablespoons of oil. I've crushed some garlic here.
just going to warm that through till it smells nice.
Okay, so it's been a little over 5 minutes, and you can see we are foamy. We have foam. So, as I said, that's how you know it's doing what it should be, or at least, hopefully, we'll find out. So now all the instructions say are add the yeast to the remaining ingredients, which were the dry ingredients. So I'm gonna put that on the mixer here to combine it, and then it says simply knead. It doesn't say for how long. So I'm going to play that by ear, but it'll probably be about 10 minutes. And I might do a half and half, 5 minutes on the bread hook and 5 minutes by hand, just so I don't overwork it too much. And then allow it to rise. So my plan is to allow it to rise for the better part of an hour, because it only takes about 12 minutes to make a pizza in the oven, and I'm at an hour and 11 minutes here on my time, so that's what's next. So the dough's been on the bread hook for about 6 minutes, and I was going to knead it some more by hand, but it's already quite stretchy and it's nice and smooth, so I'm just going to leave it as it is, put it in a bowl with a little bit of olive oil, coat it, cover it, and let it rise for the next hour. For the pizza topping, the instructions are to use fresh mozzarella, so I bought some of this mozzarella di buffalo, and fresh basil, which my fresh basil is a little under fresh because I bought this a couple days ago thinking I would do the bake earlier than now. But what I'm going to do is, because the instructions just say add the sauce and the toppings to the pizza and bake. Obviously there's a lot of water in here, and I don't necessarily want all that moisture in my pizza. So what I'm thinking, rightly or wrongly, is that I'm going to cut this into slices now while the dough is rising. Slices that I think I'm probably going to want to use on the pizza. And then I'm going to set them in a strainer and just kind of let them drip out a wee bit over the next hour so they dry up a little bit. And then maybe they won't cast so much water when they're baking. So maybe this is insane, but given that I had to make the cannoli the other day and I had to drain the cannoli, you know, it's a similar situation. This is kind of a whey-based cheese and there's a lot of moisture in it, so I'm going to try this. And worst case, dab it with some paper towel at the end. Okay, so it's been an hour. My dough has risen. I think that's probably about double in size. I really wish I could have found the fresh yeast, just because I've never worked with it before, and because this is a technical, I didn't do any preliminary research really to find out what the difference is. So I'm kind of curious what the advantages of fresh yeast are. Like, does it allow things to rise quicker? That sort of thing. I know in the past when I've made pizza dough, typically the longer you let it rise, the better the quality of the dough is. So I'm a little bit concerned about this 1 hour challenge, 1.5 hour challenge, because when I've done my pizza dough in the past, I've let it rise for 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 hours sometimes. You probably don't have to, but that's what I did on those particular occasions. So I've got the oven preheating, and I'm going to just punch this down, let it rest, and then get it shaped out into a pizza. This actually dough is very nice and elastic. I think it's actually better than the last time I made dough. So maybe the 8-hour rise isn't the be all and end all. Okay, so we're at the add sauce and toppings step. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use some of the garlic oil that I added to the base, and I'm gonna coat the outside edge of the crust because I always forget to do that. I'm going to do it first instead of last, which is usually what happens. take my sauce that is not cooked. It's just tomato puree, salt, sugar, a little bit of the garlic oil, a little bit of the lemon juice because I was provided with a lemon. Maybe it made it a bit brighter, a bit zingier. Not sure. My oven is preheated. I gotta say, I do like a lot of sauce. I like a saucy sauce. Extra base. Because we're all about the base, no trouble. Base, 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 base. Pizza base. And then fresh basil. Fresh being subjective. My basil is a bit on the wilty side. I'm going to put it under the cheese because who wants burnt basil, really? Oops, I wasn't supposed to go there. Just go there. I feel like that's a lot of basil. And then the cheese, which I did strain a bit, and it definitely made a difference. It was good. I found a puddle when I came back to look at it, so I've never put fresh mozzarella on a pizza. So I'm not really sure if I'm just supposed to leave it in rounds or chunk it around. I'm used to the shredded stuff where you've got loads of coverage. I wonder if this is too much. Again, there's no quantities, there's no rule of how much I should be using. I feel like maybe I should have given all of these mozzarellas like an extra, just a little extra boosh, soak up some of that extra moisture. Who doesn't want paper towel flavored mozzarella? That's the best, right? Yeah. Okay. And then I'm going to put the preheated pan, I think this is the secret, preheated pan underneath it. Okay, so that's it in the oven. I had the oven preheated to 350, just all the way up, as hot as it can go, because I don't have a pizza oven and I don't have a pizza brick. And that's going to go in there for about 10 to 11 minutes. I think I'll check it at maybe 10. In the past, I think I've cooked it for 12 minutes. So, see you in a second. Okay, here she is, fresh out of the oven. She looks the part. Not so much of a rise. I don't know if you can see that on the crusts haven't bubbled up. Maybe I should have folded those over to give them a more of a round edge. I thought maybe the weight of the sauce and everything would make that rise on its own, but perhaps not. Let's cut it and see how it tastes. Okay. It's got some bubbles in it. It's not floppy in the middle like Prue likes it. She likes it to be flip. It tastes fine. It tastes like pizza. I think I maybe should have broken the mozzarella into more bits so it spread a bit easier, or a bit more evenly. because there's like chunks with mozzarella and chunks without, or maybe I should have just sliced the mozzarella thinner, because I think each piece was probably a little less than a, I don't know, whatever that is that like half a centimeter? But yeah, this bit's a bit more floppy. thinner on that edge. I like my pizza base sauce. It's a little bit on the runny side. I think what I would have done differently, instead of using the juice in the tin, because I had some juice and I had some of the plum tomatoes, I think if I were to do it again, I would just remove the whole plum tomatoes and blitz them down on their own without the added juice from the tin. And that would help make it a bit thicker without having to heat it to reduce it. But it's good. Maybe add a bit more basil. I didn't want to put too much in because basil's quite a strong flavor when it's fresh. But yeah, there we go. Pizza. Italian Week Technical finished. Was it finished on time? No, they never are. But tastes good, so I'll take that as a win. Alright, thanks for tuning in. See you next time for part 3 of Italian Week, where I will be making or attempting sfiotelli. See you then. Bye.